the UK, and then furthermore in College of Naturopathic Medicine in London, first down in the Functional Medicine Institute and in the Institute for Functional Medicine in the US, applying functional medicine in clinical practice. And I started in the Bach Institute for Research in Aging in California, Novato, representing the protocols and studies on neurodegeneration and with Dr. Del Bredesen. And so today, Elizabeth and I, we would like to focus on the immunity. What is the immunity? Where there is this immunity, and what are we really talking about when we're talking about the immunity? Obviously, nobody impressed talking about the immunity, but we will be talking about the immunity. So where is it? And the idea is to make this talk actually really interactive, so it's not just exposing our knowledge, but how our knowledge actually can be brought to you and how it can be useful to you. Okay, so I will talk for a while of what I consider being useful to you, and then Elizabeth will take over and she will talk. It will be more related to environmental medicine and the environmental exposure, special focus on immunity and EMF, 5G, explaining what it is. And then we just have a little question and answer session. There are not many of you today, so just fire out and ask us some questions. The immunity, the immune system is like a hard disk of the human body, okay? And we've got immunity all over our body, basically, mainly in the glands and also in the gastrointestinal tract. Our immunity cells is a complex interaction of different compounds and different barriers. So what does it exactly mean? Our gut harbors about 70% of our immunity. What exactly does it mean? So 70% of our immunity in the gut, it means that we harbor all these bacterial species in the gut. There are about like 600 of them. We are actually more bacteria and viruses than human cells. We are a tube for bacteria and viruses. There are about 62% of bacteria and viruses and fungus, and we are harboring them. So we are actually doing them. They are doing us a favor, or we are doing them a favor. They are very symbiotic in our existence. And so these bacteria, when they are in good balance, they secrete certain substances, and these substances act as probiotic, okay, as probiotic, and they also act as antibiotics. So we do secrete our own antibiotic. But as the gut very frequently gets out of balance, and there is, how do we know that the gut is out of balance? Well, maybe sometimes we just start craving something and obsessively. Maybe sometimes we are having a little bit of gas, a little bit of flatulence. Maybe sometimes we can have a reflux. Maybe there could be some mucus in our stool, for example. That's how we know that something may be wrong. And obviously, sometimes it's just asymptomatic. Sometimes the person could be tired or could start developing some, cravings or habits. It could be sweets, it could be alcohol, for example, it could be drugs, because obviously it also is relating to the bacteria. Most of our gut health harbored by the mucous membrane. There is something that we have, and this is fundamental. It's the mucous membrane in our gut, gastrointestinal tract. It's quite thick, and it's potentiated by the immunoglobulins A. We create immunoglobulins also from the cells in our immune system, B cells and T cells. And so this mucosa is very important. It's very important because it defends our epithelial tissue, defends the wall of our gut from the invaders. And these invaders could be particles of undigested food that maybe because we have the hydrochloric acid that is not acidic enough, doesn't break the enough proteins, and so it's antigens, or viruses, bacteria. So they're kind of on this side. And then we have this mucous membrane that has to be quite thick. And here on this side, we have good guys, okay, the gut cells, and then the gut wall. So as the mucus getting thinner and thinner and thinner, okay, it could be because of the dysbiosis, because of the fungi, because of the shafting of the mucus, and it's not fixed properly. And so the guys on the other side, the bacteria and the viruses, they start getting through and they start damaging our wall. And so what happens here, we basically start having less of our antibiotics. We are not able to produce the immunoglobulins as we are and harbor them. And so that is very important to bear in mind. And obviously our lymphatic system is also another place for our immune system. We call lymphatic system forgotten system because nobody is actually mentioning it. We talk about the immune system, but we forget to mention places where it is. So lymphatic system is the system that harbors all the, let's say, liquids incorporating bacterial waste, viral waste, toxic waste that is not able to exit from the body. And so it stays in the lymphatic system and it recirculates. So very often when the person feels, for example, and especially these days, maybe with all this confinement, for example, people may be sitting a little bit more, or generally speaking, not doing a little bit less exercise, less movement. So the lymphatic system, when the person feels more bloated, for example, or says, I notice that I have more retention, maybe more edemas, then more cellulite, actually it's also related to that, then we're talking about the lymphatic system, and lymphatic system has got a little bit out of control. What is good for the lymphatic system is to bounce. We all need to bounce a little bit more because especially these days when we are only using our fingers, and the human being itself is changing. So lymphatics, just bounce a little bit. You can buy a little bouncer and just bounce. You say, why? I already run or I walk very fast, because a lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. Everything in our body has got a pump, okay? So we have the heart is pumping, the muscles, everything in our body is pumping, but the lymphatic system is not pumping. And we need to pump it ourselves, basically. So how do we do it? We do it by bouncing. You can do bouncing exercises at home very easily, and you can buy just a little bouncer, okay? Stretching will not do for the lymphatic system. And of course, when you do a lymphatic massage, this is also very important. You can do it yourself, for example, and especially by pressing on the ganglia where the lymphatic tissues are situated. So it could be here, it could be here, around your knees, for example, and also in the groins. Yeah, so those are the most important areas. Just try to massage them very gently. And yeah, so this is the immune system, basically lymphatic system, the gut system, and we focus, our main focus these days, it really is in the gut. Because also all the nutrients that we take, our gut absorbs. We are not what we eat, we are what we're absorbing. And so if we have the intestinal wall damage or permeable, and if we don't have this little also hairs that's called villi, little hairs, they're called cilia, okay, in the gut. And sometimes they get out of function. Maybe because people are intolerant to the gliadin, which is the protein and gluten. Maybe because people smoked, because it also burns little villi. So Yeah, and we're not absorbing well. So we are basically becoming more and more deficient, devoid of the nutrients. So this is something always to bear in mind as our as we are devoid of nutrients and it's going down, the immune status is also going down. Okay, so that's important to bear in mind. Now, what sort of recommendations would be for, let's say, the immune system in general and even today? Um, Vitamin D, it's very important. And I know that people have been supplementing with vitamin D, some and some not. They say that they're out in the sun, and so that's enough. So being out in the sun, it may not be enough, not for everyone. Functional medicine, it's a personalized medicine, so everybody has got their own phenotype or bio-identity. Everybody is very different. I also practice the epigenetic and nutrigenomic approach, which basically studies our genetic variability and how our genes are expressed depending on our environment. Our environment means the lifestyle, the nutrition, and the toxic exposure, toxic load that mainly could come from our own toxic load, which gets out of control, or from the environment, from the stress also, and so from the food that we eat. Yeah. So vitamin D, you can test it routinely, so that is a suggestion. But my suggestion would be when you test it, we would like to give you a little bit of a different information here. So it's always when you're supplementing long-term vitamin D, make sure that you also test your parathyroid. Okay, parathyroid, we're so focused on the thyroid, so we forget about the parathyroid. Parathyroid is a very important gland located just behind the thyroid, and that's responsible for the calcium metabolism. So if your parathyroid is above 35, then you can comfortably increase your vitamin D, and sometimes in this sort of situations, it has to be done also under control in case your parathyroid hormone is above 35 or in 40 or 45, for example, you can even take 1 international unit per kilo weight. So yes, it's a big dosage, but it really will bring your pH down. Usually it is with people who have inefficient VDR receptors, vitamin D receptors, yes, you have those, and so they're basically converting the vitamin D and not being able to absorb it. So vitamin D is very important, and this is quinones is something, quinone group is very important, and as you know, hydroxychloroquine caused a very big hoo-ha, and some people said that it is very dangerous, and although the whole medicine started with the quinone group, you know, in homeopathy, that's how medicine started, yeah. To taking it as a preventative, okay, which is obviously something that we do not recommend, is taking the hydroxychloroquine as preventative because it can have very severe secondary effects. Okay.
Excuse me, Kalga.
We do recommend the not hydroxychloroquine, but other things like artemisinin, for example. This is a very good tincture. You can get it almost anywhere. Artemisinin, and you can take a few drops, maybe 10 drops 3 times a day, and you can take it for 10 days and you can stop it. Another one which is really good is quercetin. Quercetin is anti-inflammatory, it's natural antihistaminic, and these days you can also get it in liposomal form, so it's very good. When you combine the quercetin with vitamin C, that's always a good idea. Try, if you supplement with vitamin C, it's a good idea because apart from the antioxidants, it also takes care of the cognitive tissues, makes the cognitive tissues stronger, but make sure that the vitamin C is liposomal, because that's how vitamin C only makes sense when it's inside the cell membrane. That's how it does its job. And yeah, vitamin A also, it's important, but again, make sure that if you are taking vitamin D, then you know, maybe it is not that advisable to take vitamin A at the same time. So see how you go, and maybe ask just the practitioner. We will be here basically to, you know, being able to provide you this information. We've got a wonderful website that we just launched. It's not a website, it's a community hub for people to get some structured information, more personalized. We don't go open in internet. We're not going to be launching the Zoom, Facebook, or broadcasting on Instagram. Our practice have grown sufficiently enough to be able to offer you this personalized approaches. And zinc is another one that would be really good for everyone to take. Okay, and as far as regarding the food, make sure that you are not eating the same food all the time. Sometimes people have the same breakfast always, and they consider themselves sorted. You know, I always have the same breakfast, and then people tend to have the same breakfast. Okay, so just rotate your breakfast. Okay, make sure that you have a different breakfast. Maybe if you can have oats without gluten, with a little bit of coconut oil, with a little bit of cinnamon. This is really good for nourishing the mucosa, which is the first line of defense in your gastrointestinal tract. This is what we mentioned. And also, then you can have maybe another morning some egg if you tolerate it and you don't have autoimmunity, as far as you know. You can also have some, you know, sardine, and you can make it as a gluten-free bread, for example, the bread like flaxseed bread, which is also flax seeds and oil, just olive oil, or buckwheat bread also. So yeah, all these type of things. You can make a really nice smoothie, for example, with avocado, macadamia nuts, a little bit of MCT oil, a little bit of blueberries. And so, you know, this is really feeling, and it's not gonna get you in out of balance with the you know, get your glucose up. So you're gonna stay in a nice balance. Just, you know, there are many different flours now that are coming on the market also. So just research those and try to make your food more nutrient dense. As a matter of fact, we're really looking more for the nutrient density because we should only eat when we feel hungry. Okay, we should not eat because we've been told that there is a pyramid, and you know, it should be 5 times a day, and it should be some fruits and lots of vegetables. You know, lots of vegetables is a lot of fiber. It could really bloat you. It could make you feel unwell. Everything should be in proportion. If you have, you know, if you would like to look after your gastrointestinal health, for example, and immunity. And fruits also, just take care not to eat too many of them. And when you eat them, bear in mind that they are not too high in sugar. If they are high in sugar, then make sure you add some oils to them. Maybe you eat it with avocado, maybe you eat it with a little bit of macadamia nuts. And yeah, so that is very important, okay? And with the nuts, soak the nuts always, because you activate them, and nuts also have their anti-nutrients. For example, almonds, you know, very high in arsenic. And meanwhile, it's not inorganic arsenic, it's organic arsenic because it comes from food. So, but still, it's not good to be high in arsenic. It could have also its produce counteractive effects in the body. So yeah, just make sure that you soak them. The same is with oats. A lot of people think that oats are gluten free, but they're not. So make sure you soak them overnight. While the soaking, apart from becoming, the dry fruit traditionally was made dry so that it can be preserved for a longer time. Okay, and So we have to activate it, okay? That's why. And another thing is we activate it because a lot of food contain anti-nutrients. Basically, it's so that they can live and grow and thrive in the nature, and then we can harvest them. So these anti-nutrients make them survive all the, aggression from the nature or from the bugs, for example. Okay, and so that's really is very important. Another thing is just add a little bit of kimchi. Kimchi is really good. It helps to grow Akkermansia. It's a bacteria that is responsible for the mucus growth. Okay, and potentiate your gut bacteria. And I think that will be all from me. If you want, next time probably we will be expanding more on the microbiome, and if you would like to take what is the microbiome and diving more in with different types of bacteria that we have, nutrient bacteria, regulatory bacteria. We actually have bacteria that regulates the immune system, or proteolytic bacteria. Yeah, proteolytic bacteria that is really issuing the enzymes against the different pathogens. So that will be all from me. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll take questions after that. Now over to Elizabeth.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Elizabeth, and I have studied geobiology, and I also hold a Master in Science in Textile Technology. And how I got to be interested in environmental medicine and how our living environment and outside environment affect our health was on my own personal journey. I came and saw Helga a number of years ago when I was in my early 30s with a great fear because my mother had gotten breast cancer at that time. And I was so scared that that was also going to happen to me. And so we went on sort of a health journey. And I initially came in thinking sort of what I ate was the primary thing that I could change and control and contributed to my health. But I then discovered there are so many external factors that can contribute. And then I got interested in the environment and particularly electromagnetic radiation. So then I went to Austria to an esteemed naturopathic clinic and did some studies there. And they offer very practical solutions of how you can control or change things within your home. And the philosophy there is that we spend a lot of time in our home, especially when we're in our bedrooms sleeping, and that we can't control the outside environment as much. But if we can control when we're sleeping and give ourselves a healthy environment to repair and regenerate, then we have more hope for fighting off things during the day. So then I went and did that, and that tied in very nicely with my textiles because they use a lot of textiles within that to create shielding from the EMF.
Mm-hmm. That's, I'm just going to ask, this is the journey of Elizabeth is very interesting, and it's really resonates with our clinic, which is Elizabeth covers the environmental medicine part, which is a very important part, and it goes together with everything that we do in the lifestyle section. I would like to ask Elizabeth, because she's got so much wonderful information on the environmental medicine topics, but if I may, I just would ask about the 5G, because obviously everybody is asking, what is 5G? Or 5G is dangerous and so on. So what is actually 5G? Can you explain to us?
Yeah, sure. So 5G, when they refer to that, is the 5th generation. And so we've gone through 1G, which allowed us to make phone calls, then 2G, which was phone calls and SMSs, and then 3G, which allowed video calls, and 4G, which we use now, which allows more things. So 5G is the next step along. Now, in able to make it, the biggest difference between the 4G and the 5G is going to be the speed of which things are sent. So it will be in real time. At the moment with 4G, there's a slight lag. So to enable this, they're going to use a combination of the microwave, which is what they use with 4G, combined with the millimeter wave. And this is where I think people have started to get worried because, I mean, there's already numerous studies that the microwave and within phone, using your phone and Wi-Fi have an effect on human health. Whereas the millimeter wave, there is no many controlled studies that have proved that it's healthy and safe for humans or the environment. And that's where a lot of the controversy is sort of started. So many scientists in 2009, I know a group of 245 scientists came together and they put in a paper and they were like, look, you know, I think we need to postpone this launching of 5G until we have concrete evidence that it doesn't harm human health or the environment health. And so, yeah, that's pretty 5G. It's the millimeter wave, which is much smaller.
And so, what are the solutions to the exposure that you would propose? Because obviously, right now we do start noticing the antennas goes up, you know, the aerials for the 5G, and people are generally concerned. So, yes, there is an implication, obviously, of 5G for the health. It's mainly the frequencies, okay, because we are vibrational beings, and there is no doubt about that. But what are the solutions? So, because the one environment here, what we are doing also, Elizabeth and I, we're trying to bring the solutions not to be extremist, to say, okay, this is very bad, and so this has to go out, because all we can do, we can reduce the exposure. We cannot eliminate it, but we can work on reducing the exposure. So Elizabeth, where do we start, and what could be the initial solution so that people just grab a few tips?
Yes, yeah, no, I'll give you some tips. So within the home, most people are concerned with the Wi-Fi, your phone signal, which we refer to as radio frequency. But there's also electronic frequency from wiring within your house, power lines, you know, transmission lines, and then also magnetic frequency, which is from also from power lines, transmission lines, and badly wired housing, and also electrical items. So there's quite a few items in your house without even getting to the 5G that could be giving people a negative health reaction. So what we do is we often go to someone's house and do an assessment, and we measure and we see what the levels are like. But there are many things you can do without having an assessment at home. I mean, they're very simple things. So let's start with your phone communication. Okay, cordless telephones, not your mobile, but the cordless ones that many people still have in their houses. They don't usually use them, but maybe out of nostalgia, they still have them plugged in. Get rid of it. It's really, really not worth it. If you must have a home phone, I suggest going back to the old school one. You know, you've got one in your house, maybe two if you need to, with the cord connected, because the cordless phones are continually communicating with each other throughout the house. Another thing with your mobile phone, don't take it into the bedroom. If you must use it as an alarm clock, put it on Wi-Fi, put it on flight mode. When you're speaking on the telephone, avoid using it against your head as much as possible. You can put it on loudspeaker. You can also purchase something that we have. It's called a air tube set. So it plugs in, and from about midway it uses an air tube that goes up, so it prevents the wire from running the signal right up into your ear. And I mean, it's much better than Bluetooth or any of those sort of cordless items that now are very popular. When you're carrying around your mobile, I think we're all ladies here today, but maybe your partner's, brothers, whatever, pockets, front pockets that men love to wear their phones. It's really bad. And there's many studies that have shown the reduced sperm count from doing that, and even leading to infertility. Another item is also like not putting it in your bra when you go for a run. I've seen women doing that, you know, out of convenience. It's right next to your breast tissue and your lymphatic system. And there's also the creation of heat from constant signal. So probably when you're carrying your phone around, if you possibly can, as far away from your body. What else in your house? If we're moving then to the bedroom, what we want is...
We spend a lot of time in the bedroom. We don't realize, because actually it's the time, it's kind of this intrinsic time in a way, yeah, that we don't realize how much time we spend in it, yeah, because it's we are asleep, but actually it's such a long time just being in one place. During the day, think about the day, you're constantly moving, yeah, and so this is in one place. So what are the what are the items that we should be considering in the bedroom, Elizabeth? Maybe, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
mattresses?
So we start like first with the actual bed frame of your bed. It's advisable to have a wood one, not metal. We want to avoid as much metal as possible because it acts like an antenna and will grab whatever is going around and feed it up into your body. And that goes for the mattress too. The inner spring mattress that we all know, most do, you know, you don't realize they put nice toppers on top now. You think you're getting, but no. So that's another thing. If you're buying a new mattress, try and find one that doesn't have metal springs in it, because again, that acts like an antenna. You want to avoid having as many items plugged in your room, including lamps. I mean, if you do use a lamp, unplug it at night, because that can be giving you electric frequency that comes into the bed, and particularly if you have metal pieces and sort of creating through your body and heightening it. What else? We've got no telephones in the bedroom, no charging of items, electric blankets. This is one. Everyone, particularly in the colder months, likes having an electric blanket. It is just really not a good idea. If you need your bed warm, I guess go back to a hot water bottle. But that's another thing. And particularly sleeping with the electric blanket on, warming with the electricity running right through. And particularly again, if you've got a mattress with wires, it's not great. Yes. Then we move to shielding techniques. So if you have someone come to your house and they measure and your levels are very high, there are a lot of options you can do. So for example, you can use a graphite paint your room and the idea is to create like a Faraday cage and protect yourself. And this paint's been tested against 5G just recently in Austria. So it's a very, 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 very sort of ahead of its time product. Another thing is, if you don't want to commit to painting because you're in a rental property or you could be moving soon, we also have like a lovely thing that's a canopy. And this is like a mosquito net. So it functions as both, but it has a thin silver thread running through, and then it's wrapped in cotton and will allow the air to pass through. And you just create like what you would if you had a mosquito net over your bed. And that will protect you, not from all the frequencies, not from the electronic frequencies, but it will protect you from the Wi-Fi. As for 5G, they're still doing tests if it will test for that, if it will protect for that, but at the moment it will protect from everything else. If you have any wiring problems in your house and they're detected, this is very easy to fix. You can put a cut breaker in your switch box, and that will just cut off the problematic circuits in the evening. Or, I mean, if you don't even want to do that, you can just easily switch them off at night, the ones that run into your bedroom, and put them in the morning.
Any suggestions for the children? Because obviously these days, children studying from home or spending more time, and probably, you know, there are implications. So.
Yeah, so with children, obviously we have to be extra careful because their nervous systems, they're still developing. So they're even more affected from this sort of man-made radiation than adults. So a few suggestions there. I mean, in a child's bedroom, you want to make sure that you're putting the bed not against the wall that's with the home television unit or the fridge. So making sure that the wall that their bed is against isn't neighbouring on to any big electrical items that are plugged into the wall. Then secondly, most children now use some form of iPad, computer, maybe a parent's phone. Ideally, if they're on the iPad, if it's possible, to have it on plane mode or flight mode, if they're using an application that allows that. Now with the coronavirus, we've had a lot of homeschooling, so distance is key. So if they are using an iPad or a computer, maybe you can set it up for them and sort of set the rule of a distance. They don't need to be sort of on it the whole time, particularly in video conferencing. As the children get older, I suggest that if they're using computers, that you get an external, and this is also for office people that work a lot on the computer, an external plug-in keyboard that plugs into your computer so your hands are not over your laptop while you're typing, and or the child is, and also an external mouse. Also, just avoiding any Bluetooth technology with children. I'd be avoiding any sort of like smart headphones and things like this, and just sort of monitoring how much they use it. I mean, it's hard to avoid, but yeah, I think the monitoring.
Well, And I would add something that is obviously very much in the practice. I focus on the inflammatory response because this is the main driver for dysregulating the immune system. And there is a lot of chronic inflammatory response that we are seeing. And this chronic inflammatory response very often actually mediated, to say promoted, by the mold exposure. A lot of people, they have no idea that they have mold exposure because obviously in our Western world, we were taught to fix the kitchens, to fix everything to the wall if possible, and not to move it. Not like Feng Shui in Japan, where they have a culture of moving, for example, everything, which is really good, not only energetically, but also, you know, you can see what's going on in the wall, for example. And so mold, it's very big toxins. It produces mycotoxins, and it creates biotoxicity in the body. Mold is a live fungi, and it's practically everywhere. And it uses electromagnetic frequencies to go through the blood-brain barrier. Before it was thought by science and evidence, because there was not enough evidence, because there were not enough scientists and researchers like myself going into covering this field, so to say. But now, you know, there is more and more research, and we know that mold uses electromagnetic fields and radiation in order to get in through the blood-brain barrier and settle, for example, in the brain. Okay, so obviously the people who can have brain fog, problems with the memory, cognitive decline, forgetfulness, lack of concentration, lack of focus, you know, all these can be actually related. So this is one impact that we know that is caused. To me, it sounds very, very important, because I think that we are living in, obviously, in the situation of the climate change. Inevitably, it is happening, and we are witnessing that. And there is more and more changes in the temperature. There is a humidity. There is lots of rains or tsunamis or sudden outbursts of pouring. So, okay, and obviously this is causing the damage. Water damage buildings are becoming more and more common. So Elizabeth and I, we are kind of a step ahead on that, and being able to advise people and then provide solutions. And having said all of this, we do also testing. Some of the testing is traditional testing or not traditional testing, you know, the markers of the traditional, you know, Western medicine, which obviously has its place, because it looks at the acute situations. If somebody has got like brain hemorrhage, for example, or broke a leg, for example, there is obviously definitely, you know, or has an ischemic attack or heart attack, there is a place for this. But for the chronic conditions, obviously acute medicine is not working. And this is where we step in to provide solutions, and in our case, more personalized solutions, like for you, for our community. And as I say, you know, we're expecting not any kind of exponential growth. We're not looking for likes here. We're not looking for the multitude of people attending, but if you like us, if you continue attending, and people will be summing up, this is the community. The critical thinking and consciousness, it's our aim and our goal. And so, yes, I think on this note, that's all from us. If you would like to ask us any questions, you can type the questions in, or you can just put your speaker on and, yeah, ask a question. No questions. Okay. Yes, so I then carry on just for 2 minutes left, and would say, so how do we understand, now we understand all this immunity about the lymphatic system and about the gut, but what do we do? How do we test it? So here we can test immunoglobulins, we can test the first line of defense, we can test barriers. It's a more advanced testing, but where we really see the more smaller situations, and you know, when we see the smaller cellular level, and where we see the microbiome that goes beyond, for example, just bifidobacillus and lactobacillus. And so, yeah, this is something that is crucially important to know that it is available, and we will conduct a personalized for health, your situation, your home health, and so on. Okay, if need be. Hi, Vanessa.
Vanessa has a question.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you so much. This is so wonderful. Thank you so much for this wonderful information. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So this is all very valuable information. And thank you very much, both of you. You know, you spoke about first nutrition of the gut, very important, and then second we were talking about 5G. So for me personally, well, for many people, so I want to do a program so my gut is better and functioning better as a woman. What do you recommend? You mentioned supplements, the vitamin D, the vitamin zinc, but also there is a balance in that as well. So first, my question is for Helga with the nutrition. What do you recommend for that so that there is a balance? And also for the lymphatic system, you had mentioned something to help massage those areas, which would create a healthier function. What do you recommend?
So thank you, Vanessa. As you mentioned, for lymphatic system at the very beginning, because we have a pump, okay? It's very important in order for the system to actually work. The system you can do a bounce, for example. Okay? Or you can do just one thing, just mute that. Please, just very simple bouncing exercises, okay? So this way you are going, bouncing means this, okay? So just, it could be jumping, it could be, for example, the ropes, jumping with the ropes, it could be just doing the pumping exercises, it could be if you have a bouncer, yeah? So for the immune system, what is very important, it's very important, number one, not to overeat, and for the gut especially. It's very important to maintain your hydrochloric acid, okay? Hydrochloric acid in the gut, it's very participating in the whole story of the absorption of zinc and the vitamin D, actually. And so it's what activates in the first place the whole immune system, okay? So very often this hydrochloric acid becomes quite alkaline. So in the morning, just something very simple. You can drink some lemon juice, just water with lemon juice. So that would be a good thing. You can add lemon to everything, excuse me, everything you eat. There could be salads, for example, or, you know, other foods that you are eating, okay? Avoid pasta, avoid soy, avoid gluten. You can try to avoid, for example, you know, if you do have some symptoms, just to try to eliminate egg for 1 or 2 weeks, because eggs could be pro-inflammatory. You can also try to avoid the tomato and aubergines, because these are nightshades, and especially for people who have rheumatoid arthritis or some pain in the joints, for example, this is quite important. Those are particularly the anti-nutrients that we spoke about before, okay? And they create the antigens, and this is basically inflames the system. I would also suggest to repairing the gut wall or reconditioning the gut wall. This is done with substances like L-glutamate, L-proline, some proteolytic enzymes also, just to repair. So those type of things. And rotating your food is also very important. So soaking your gluten-free oat porridge, for example, or the nuts, and rotating them. So it could be macadamia nuts, it could be almonds, for example. Almonds are very high in proteins, so very good. Pine kernels, for example, also very good source. Or cashew nuts, also very good. You don't need to eat them as nuts. You can also actually make a very nice pate out of them, or sort of a type of hummus thing, okay, or pesto. It's all very easily made. Breads, just if you would like to eat bread and without, any flour, without spiking your sugar, and so yeah, the bread could be flaxseed bread, for example. Eat your bitters. Bitters are very good. It could be watercress. It could be watercress or rocket salad. So they're very digestive.
I think she had her hand up to ask something.
Sorry, yeah, yeah.
Bennett is speaking to me.
Yes, exactly. Can you hear what I said?
Forgive me. Thank you for my better raw cashew.
Sorry?
Better raw cashew. Raw.
Oh, raw cashew.
Raw cashew, yeah, but you know,
Okay. Thank you so much. And yes, and thank you so much for that valuable information. And also about the 5G. For an assessment, do you recommend someone? Is it something that you can call the energy company? How do we do a proper assessment?
A proper assessment. Well,
Not for no, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about 5G. The 5G, I value the information you gave. It's about the assessment of the house for the signals going through the house.
oh yes, no, I
an assessment.
yes, this is when I'm referring to anyone. It is that environmental medicine talk about this and the architect and all the equipment. This is the one who does that. The reports and makes suggestions on improvements. Okay.
Thank you so much to the two of you. You look amazing, and I really, really appreciate this beginning of the information you're offering. It's really wonderful, and I think more people need to hear this.
Great, fantastic. So, if you'd like to hear something,
Oh, I can't hear you. It's breaking up.
Here next time, Angela or Xenia, or any particular topic that is close to your heart that you would like to hear about? No. Okay.
In the future. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we are 5 minutes over our time. So, yes. And thank you very much for your participation. So we'll be trying to do it weekly. I think next week we probably will not be doing that. Yeah. But the week after we're starting again, and it will be covering different interesting topic that is close to your heart. When we're proposing topics, conversations, it's always considering your heart and what is close to your heart, not just our knowledge, and kind of, it's this type of transmissions. Okay, thank you. Okay, and see you around. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.